What's up, and welcome to the DualSense podcast. This is episode number 125. I am one of your co-hosts, Jason, and I am not joined today by your other co-host, Travis. He has been indisposed today. I know he went to the mechanic this morning to pick up a loaner car while they work on his vehicle, and then he's fallen off the map. He's MIA, so I had to proceed without him because I don't know if I'll be able to record it any other time today. So here I am. Got a cup of coffee, of course, a little bit of French vanilla creamer to keep me warm down in my basement as I record. I've actually slept for about, I don't know, what feels like maybe 15 or 16 hours over the last day and a half or so. I've just been sleeping on and off. It's been quite nice. I've just been dozing off for an hour or two at a time. So I don't know what's going on with me, but it's been wonderful. So happy. Hope you have had a nice Thanksgiving. I've gotten lots of food. I've spent some time with friends or loved ones. And now you can gather here with me and we can go over the week's PlayStation news as we always do each and every week, normally with Travis and myself. In under 90 minutes, we go over all the week's news, rumors, new game releases, and much more in the world of PlayStation. We post new episodes every Monday on all of the usual podcast services around the world, as well as YouTube, where we also share gameplay videos occasionally as well, sometimes some highlight reels. We're also on social media, of course. Our primary feed is Twitter, at the DualSense Pod, but we're also on TikTok now, as well as Instagram and Facebook. We go by at the DualSense Podcast on those. We also have a blog, which is the DualSensePodcast.wordpress.com. You can see our bios, our pictures, and the show notes each week if you choose. So we would love to catch up with you. Please find us, reach out to us, and chat PlayStation with us. And without further ado, I'm going to jump right into the news here since I'm just by myself. And it's been, compared to the last couple of weeks, it's been a pretty noteworthy news week. Some of the stuff I'm tired of talking about, but it's interesting and newsworthy nonetheless, including number one. The never-ending saga of Sony versus Microsoft over the acquisition of Activision Blizzard just keeps getting juicier, with this week providing some of the best entertainment to date from the reality television-like feud. For starters, Xbox told the New York Times that it offered Sony a 10-year deal to keep Call of Duty titles on PlayStation as recently as November the 11th, and they stated in a filing to British regulators that PlayStation exclusive games were of higher quality than Xbox's own exclusives, even calling them quote-unquote iconic. Also, Sony's response to the British Competition and Markets Authority was published this week, in which the hardware maker said they feel confident that British regulators will ultimately block the sale of Activision to Microsoft, citing a substantial lessening of competition in the industry. Sony told regulators, quote, Microsoft would control irreplaceable content which drives user engagement. Post-transaction, Microsoft would control Activision content which drives redacted number of times as much user engagement on PlayStation than all of SIE's best performing first-party titles put together, end quote. Sony went on to say, quote, faced with weaker competition, Microsoft would be able to increase console and game prices for Xbox users, including those that switch from PlayStation, increase the price of Game Pass, and reduce innovation and quality, end quote. This, of course, is quite ironic for a company that just raised the price of its gaming software in the last 2 years, as well as raised the price of the PS5 significantly across the globe, with the exception of these United States. Sony went on to say that it believes if Call of Duty were ever exclusive to Xbox or even just made available at no charge on Game Pass, that it would irreparably damage PlayStation's ability to compete, no matter what actions they took to try to level the playing field. Sony used the Battlefield franchise as an example of a company pouring resources into a competitive property that, quote-unquote, can't keep up. Ouch. PlayStation took it one step further by telling British regulators that Microsoft's true intent is to reduce Sony to Nintendo's level in terms of being a non-competitor in the market with regard to mature-rated shooter franchises. Sony said, quote, post-transaction, Xbox would become the one-stop shop for all the best-selling shooter franchises on console, such as Call of Duty, Halo, Gears of War, Doom, and Overwatch, as the decision explains, and it would then be free from serious competitive pressure, end quote. This, of course, also flies in the face of Sony shutting down all of its internally developed mature-rated shooter franchises over the last 15 years, including Killzone, Resistance, and SOCOM. Activision threw their hat in the ring this week, with CCO Lulu Ching Messervy stating on Twitter that, quote, this merger will benefit gamers and the U.S. gaming industry, especially as we face stiffer competition from abroad. We're committed to continuing to work cooperatively with regulators around the globe to allow the transaction to proceed, but won't hesitate to fight to defend the transaction if that's needed, end quote. The British CMA has until March 1st, 2023 to make its final decision regarding the deal. And finally, later in the week, website Politico reported that the U.S. Federal Trade Commission is, quote, likely to file an antitrust lawsuit, end quote, to block Microsoft's takeover of Activision Blizzard, according to 3 different sources with knowledge of what is going on behind the scenes. If that were to happen, it would be a major blow to Microsoft and would require them to fight for months in U.S. courts to push the deal through. Okay, so a lot to take in there. I know I wrote a lot of words, and hope you stuck with me there, but there's a lot going on here. And first of all, let me just say again that both of these companies, meaning Sony and Microsoft, look absolutely silly with all of this. They are saying stupid things that anybody that knows anything about video games understands is ridiculous. But to some of these regulatory bodies, they may not know the difference. But first of all, the first thing that really jumps out to me is just how far these companies are going and how dumb that they'll make themselves look to try to get this through. Xbox saying that Sony makes games that are of much higher quality, that are even iconic when compared to Xbox games. I mean, just imagine that for a second. Microsoft, Xbox, is throwing all of their own game studios and their own games under the bus to try to make them look bad enough to be able to purchase Activision. And they know at this point that these things are going to get out because these filings are going to get published. And they still say these things and still write these things. It's unbelievable. And then on the other hand, you have PlayStation going out here and saying that if the deal goes through, Microsoft is going to raise the prices for Xbox users and increase the price of Game Pass when they just, at the start of this console generation, raised the price of games to $70. Now, they weren't the only one, of course. But on the other hand, they've also raised the price of the PlayStation 5 everywhere in the world except the United States. But here they are saying that if Microsoft were to get Activision, it's going to be the end of the world because it'll allow Xbox in some way to go out here and raise prices on their stuff as well. When PlayStation's already done it. It's a joke. It's just amazing how far these companies will go and how deep of a hole they'll dig to try to either push this through or to prevent this, depending on which side. And then, of course, you have PlayStation also saying that Xbox will have control of all of the best-selling shooter franchises. And I think that is a little bit of an overstatement as well. Yes, Call of Duty, of course, is the biggest one. Halo is a big one. Gears of War, Doom, Overwatch, those are big ones as well. But there are other shooters still out there on the market that they won't control. Destiny, of course. Battlefield is another one. So, and there are some other ones sprinkled in there as well. So that's a little bit of an exaggeration as well, of course. So we're just into this territory now where it's just one exaggeration over the other. And it's just like, it's almost like which company can one up the other with these just outlandish, hyperboles, basically. And then the last thing really that I wanted to say about this is the very last sentence there, which was late in the week in terms that the U.S. Federal Trade Commission is believed to be preparing to file an antitrust lawsuit against Microsoft to block this deal. I have to say that hearing that news, this makes me wonder if this deal is in serious jeopardy to go through. I think that would be a massive blow. I don't know how it survives that, at the very least, without spending months in court in the United States. And of course, if you've been paying attention in the U.S., which I know a lot of you don't live here as well, the Federal Trade Commission under the Biden administration has made it this sort of axe to grind, a top priority to crack down on the major tech companies in the United States in terms of how much power they have over markets. And because there's this belief that they've gotten so big, like the Facebooks of the world, the Amazons of the world, the Apples, etc. Microsoft is certainly one of those as well. So the fact that this is Microsoft trying to make this acquisition, I think they might use this as a way to make an example out of one of these companies. So I don't think that bodes well at all for Microsoft. So I don't care either way at this point what happens. I'm just stating the facts. It does not look good. So we'll have to see, but it's just amazing what is going on still between these companies. And at the very least, it's been highly entertaining, and it's given us a really good glimpse at, in a way, how these companies feel, how they are motivated, and how they operate. And I think that's been very interesting to watch unfold. So we'll see what happens. And we've still got to wait a few more months before we get any real type of clarity on this. Number 2, believe it or not, Call of Duty is not the only thing that Sony and Microsoft are competing over these days, as China has become an increasingly important battleground for game development talent over the last half decade or so. In fact, Sony announced this week that it will expand its PlayStation China Hero project, a program designed to identify and incubate Chinese-made games. With Microsoft hot on their heels and seeking to expand in the Chinese market following the massive success of Genshin Impact for PlayStation, Sony has announced it will commit to investing 1 million won, or about 140,080 US dollars, into each game that it enrolls in the China Hero project going forward. The program had come to a halt during COVID-19, but Sony's director of China game production, Bao Bo, announced the program's return on Tuesday, while adding that it will not only fund small teams, but also big teams with dozens of employees as well. Along those lines, Sony announced that they are now the publisher of action RPG Lost Soul Aside, coming from developer Ulti-Zero Games in 2024, as well as multiplayer third-person shooter Convallaria, coming from developer Lung Force in 2023. Lost Soul Aside was first revealed in 2016 and later joined the China Hero project in 2017. Convallaria was announced this week, as far as I can tell, and both games will be releasing on both PS4 and PS5 when they're ready. The China Hero project revealed its first 2 batches of games in 2017 and 2019, respectively, and it has supported 17 titles to date, 7 of which have come to market. Lost Soul Aside and Convallaria are both included in those first 2 batches of games, with a new batch of titles currently being lined up. This third batch will include at least 10 titles, according to Sony, which is placing a premium on the Chinese gaming market following the meteoric success of the free-to-play Genshin Impact. Okay, so despite some nefarious things going on in the country of China, mainly with the Chinese Communist government, that's not necessarily an indictment on the Chinese people as a whole, because obviously there's very good people in the country as well. It's just their government who really I have an issue with, and some of the things that they do. But the Chinese gaming scene has become a very hotbed of talent for gaming development, and both of these companies are going to battle over that as well, it appears. And so PlayStation obviously struck the first blow with their China Hero project, and we've gotten some pretty cool games out of that already so far. That Fist Forged in Shadow Torch game, Anno Mutationum, games like that. And I don't know if you've seen this Lost Soul Aside game, but it looks very good. People have been excited about it since it first was announced. It looks really cool. And then the Convallaria game that was just announced this week as a part of this looks very cool. It looks like a sort of like almost like Destiny and Anthem in a way mixed together. It looks really cool. It's that style game. Maybe more like the Division and Anthem sort of would be a better comparison, but it looks really cool. So I get why PlayStation is doing this, and really those are minimum investments really to kind of back these teams. $140,000. That's not a lot of money to pick up or support some of these teams and pick up some potential exclusives along the way for your platforms, like they have done so far. So very cool project, honestly, in my opinion, to sort of find these developers and find this talent and find these cool looking projects and bring them to PlayStation. And I wonder if they may even try to do this in other countries in the future. I think that would be cool to see how they could expand that and maybe do something in some other part of the world that has talent that's waiting to be tapped into or to be supported properly. So we'll see. I know we've talked on the show before about how Microsoft is really trying to get into China, and I don't know if they've had as much success as Sony. So that'll be an interesting battlefield to watch play out over the next decade or so. But 10 more titles on the way and 10 more still to be released from the first two batches. So a total of 20 more titles coming out of China that are backed by Sony. Number 3, The Witcher 3 developer CD Projekt Red revealed all that is new with the current gen version of the beloved RPG, which is coming to PS5 on December the 14th and will be free to all current owners of the game. It's quite an impressive overhaul, including a visual overhaul comparable to ultra graphical settings on PC, as well as a photo mode, new gameplay camera positions similar to God of War's camera, 2 graphical modes, a 60 frames per second performance mode, and a 30 frames per second ray tracing mode, full support for the DualSense controller, updated controls for sign casting, faster loading times, map filters, a new quest inspired by Netflix's Witcher series, new swords, new armor, new items, and much more. CD Projekt Red also shared a gameplay video of the new update, and it is quite glorious. Okay, so finally got the curtains pulled back on the next gen update, or current gen update, I should say, for The Witcher 3, and it looks great. It looks like a very robust update. This might be the next, CD Projekt Red has really rebounded after Cyberpunk 2077 and all that, so this might be the next kind of feather in their cap with fans, and they're making it available for free to everyone. And the game's on deep sale right now, and they're even promoting that, like, hey, it's 80% off, so get it now while you can, and then get the, enjoy the free upgrade here in a couple of weeks. So this is very cool. Very cool to see. I think that I'm actually going to try, I'm not a big fan of playing games in 30 FPS. I can do a few if they're done very well in terms of like the frame pacing and stuff. Red Dead Redemption 2 is the best example of that. So I'm hoping that I can play the 30 FPS mode with ray tracing and all the bells and whistles and not, get a headache from that. So that's kind of my goal is to check that mode out. I'm very excited about this. The Witcher 3 is one of those games that I hold very dearly. I remember playing it for like 300 hours or so when it came out on PS4, back in 2015, when my wife and I were living in an apartment and we only had one TV and stuff. So she remembers it fondly too, watching me play the game. So we have good memories of that, and it's a great game. I've actually never played, despite owning it, all of the DLCs, and those are regarded as some of the best DLCs ever made. So I plan to just kind of pick it up there. I don't really want to like start over from scratch or anything like that. Maybe that'd be something I would do down the road, but I'm going to start the DLCs and go from there. So very excited about this, and that looks awesome. So definitely look up that video that they put out if you're interested in this. Quite impressive. Number 4, EA Sports announced this week that the highly anticipated return of their college football game series has been delayed by a whole year to the summer of 2024. Dubbed EA Sports College Football, the revival of the beloved series was first announced in February of 2021, and was originally planned to release in July of next year. EA Sports blamed the delay in part on issues navigating the new name, image, and likeness rules in college athletics, with the company still figuring out how to include real-life players in-game and compensate them. They did reveal that they have secured the rights to 120 colleges, with a few notable exceptions, that will allow it to include uniforms, stadiums, and other traditions from those schools. EA Sports also shared that the fan-favorite Dynasty and Road to Glory modes will return as well, and they shared a few in-development looks at artwork. Most importantly, however, is the fact that the game will not piggyback off of Madden NFL, and instead appears to be getting built from the ground up. Okay, so very disappointing news for the many, many millions of fans of the NCAA college football series. The last game we got was NCAA football 14, of course, which still sells for like around 80, 90, $100 used at game stores because you just can't find it. It's been so long and it's such a beloved game. You could say that the hype is real for this game. I actually heard about this the night before they announced this. This is like one of the one things that we have a source about in the video game industry. And so it wasn't going to say anything, of course, out of respect for our source, our friend. But I was very disappointed to find this out and that it's going to be delayed by a whole year. But from what it sounds like, they're still really having a hard time trying to figure out how to get players, individual players on board, how to implement that, how to compensate them to be in the game, and what that process is, what that looks like, really. Beyond that, though, I'm very excited to hear that it's not going to be, allegedly, so they say, a reskin of Madden NFL. I think that's been most people's biggest fear so far to this point is that they're just going to take Madden and just slap a coat of paint on it, a college football coat of paint on it, and say, "Oh, this is it." But it sounds like that's not the case, and I think that's very exciting as well. So that could have some effect on what's going on as well. As even though I'm sure they're using Frostbite engine, they're trying to tweak it for their own style of game, and so perhaps there's some issues there as well. But 2024, we got to wait one more year. Number 5, Sony is finally going to do something about the endless amount of completely asinine shovelware games on the PlayStation Store, according to website dex.exe, whatever that is. They received screenshots of a letter sent out to developers by Sony. Shovelware, for the unfamiliar, are those cheap, reskinned games on the store that are for nothing more than earning a quick platinum trophy. The letter penned by Sony claims that the company will be implementing a number of steps to deter or eliminate altogether the release of these spam video games. Games deemed to be spam will be subject to various actions such as restricted discoverability, only able to be found via direct link, delisted from the PlayStation Store altogether, refused publication from the start, and or the game developer's PlayStation account being suspended or terminated. Okay, so this has become a real problem, as you may know, from us reading off the new game releases each week. Things like the jumping chicken nuggets and shit like that. It's just ridiculous what makes it onto the PlayStation Store and just clutters up. I mean, if you just go look at the new game releases each week and you sort it by release date, there's a handful of these week in and week out. And it's really gotten out of control, and it's not something that we want to allow or should allow on the PlayStation Store. We don't want this to become like the iOS store, like a mobile phone store. It's not what this is. It's not what it should be. And so thankfully, Sony's finally going to do something about this. It's been a long time coming. And, I don't blame them for this. I hope this is true. This is, of course, just a rumor at this point based on this document that was obtained by this website I've never heard of. So we'll see if this actually is real. I don't know that they would ever make an announcement about this because this is sort of like behind the scenes, behind the curtain sort of thing. So we may never get an official notice about this. We might just start seeing that these games are disappearing off of the PlayStation Store or that they no longer appear in the weekly list. So that's something that I'll keep an eye on as well each week, and we'll see how that plays out. But thank God for this. Thank God. Number 6, we also have a bunch of news nuggets here as well, and sadly, I don't have Travis here to jump in with me, so you just have to listen to me go on and on about this. So here we go. First nugget, God of War Ragnarok sold 5 million copies in its first week on the market, en route to becoming the fastest selling launch ever for a first-party PlayStation game. The game's director, Eric Williams, also told Kinda Funny Games this week that he would love to work on a Castlevania game, should rights holder Konami be willing to outsource the license. Williams also said this week not to expect any DLC for the smash hit sequel. Thank God, it's already way too long as it is, in my opinion. Next nugget, Gran Turismo 7 received a new update this week which added 3 new cars, the BMW M2 Competition 2018, the Ford Sierra RS 500 Cosworth 1987, and the Nissan Silvia K's Aero S14 1996. The update also added the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta race circuit and the ability to sell cars from your personal garage once the cafe menus are complete. Also, Genshin Impact version 3.3 is releasing on December the 7th and will feature a new card game, 2 new playable characters, and more seasonal events. Website Video Games Chronicle reported that Multiverse's Season 2 Battle Pass takes twice as much XP to complete as Season 1, and Marvin the Martian was added to the game this week after a last-minute delay last week. So they're starting to get a little sketchy with Multiverses. So I understand it's a free-to-play game, but they're doing some questionable stuff. So we'll see if they can stay on course. Also, wrestler CM Punk has seemingly been removed from the cover of the upcoming All Elite Wrestling game following reports that the game's developer is looking to part ways with Punk. And a new gameplay video for the title confirmed a 2023 release window. The Callisto Protocol's Season Pass will include new player death animations for the game's protagonist Jacob, and this was met with some consternation this week as people were saying that the developer Striking Distance Studio was holding back animations to have the Season Pass, and Glenn Schofield, the game's director, of course, refuted that, saying that that was not the case, that they have not even started working on the death animations. So we'll see. Also, I watched the first uncut gameplay. Some gameplay leaked out over the week this week. I watched about 20-25 minutes of it, and I am moderately intrigued by it. I don't know if I can do it because it's that jump scare game. I don't know, but it does look kind of. There's something about it that looks kind of cool. So I'm gonna keep my eye on it. I don't think it's something I want to pay full price for. It also looked a little glitchy, so maybe there's some things that are going to be addressed in a day one update. We'll see, but I'm intrigued. Next nugget: Rebel Wolves, the new studio co-founded by The Witcher 3's game and art directors, has secured a strategic investment from Chinese tech and gaming giant NetEase for their AAA dark fantasy title. It is being built on Unreal Engine 5 for current-gen consoles and PC. After some reports earlier in the week that developer Team Ninja had seemingly confirmed new Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive games were in the works, the studio has now clarified that no such projects are in development at this time. Warzone 2 has hit 25 million players in its first 5 days. For context, the first game crossed 30 million in 10 days on the market, so it seems to be well on its way to that. Sony and Honda have long been collaborating on an entertainment-focused rival to the Tesla, and we learned this week that it could possibly mean the inclusion of a PS5 in the electric vehicle. That is so wild to me. Imagine playing God of War while your Honda whatever drives you to work. Crazy. Also, as a part of the Sony vs. Microsoft fallout this week, we learned from documents filed by both companies that neither is expecting to launch new consoles until at least 2028. Now, I think that means the next generation of consoles, meaning the PlayStation 6, we're definitely getting a PS5 Pro before that. So I'm going to guess 2024. Next nugget: Tetris, the Grandmaster, widely held as the hardest Tetris game on Earth, will be getting a console release for the first time. It is coming to PS4 at some point in the future, although it is unclear if it will be released in the Western Hemisphere. Website Insider Gaming reported that Final Fantasy XVI will get its release date announced at the Game Awards on December the 8th. A new AAA game set in the Alien film franchise is currently in development. It is a survival horror game, and it is codenamed Marathon. It is scheduled for release on current-gen consoles only sometime next holiday. Along those lines, website PushSquare reported that, according to insider Jeff Grubb, Star Wars Jedi Survivor will have its March release date revealed at the Game Awards as well. Stunning kayaking VR sim Kayak VR Mirage is aiming to be ready in time for launch on PSVR 2, according to the game's developer. And actually, there's been an update on this. The game now has a PlayStation Store page. You can wish list it, and the release date is listed as February 22nd. So that game looks incredible. Very stunning. I'm definitely going to pick that up for PSVR 2. Look up the gameplay trailer. It looks wild. Next nugget: Assassin's Creed Valhalla will not be getting a new Game Plus mode after all, as content support for the game is set to end with the upcoming Last Chapter DLC. Ubisoft had said 2 years ago that it was looking into the feature. Not so much. Trails into Reverie has an upgrade path from PS4 to PS5, but your save files will not carry over. The JRPG is launching sometime next summer for both systems, so choose wisely. It appears that popular first-person shooter Valorant will be making its way to consoles at some point in the future, as developer Riot Games is hiring for 6 positions related to a console version of the title. My only question about this is, why are they just now doing this? It's Riot Games. Why do you have to wait this long to hire people to help you make a console version? I just don't understand that, but whatever. Not from a company that big. HBO released the first official poster for their adaptation of The Last of Us this week, if you're interested. It looks appropriately gloomy. Development is nearly complete on the Pinocchio-inspired Souls-like game Lies of P, according to the game's director. Elden Ring has won 2022's Ultimate Game of the Year at the Golden Joystick Awards. Horizon Forbidden West won Best Storytelling, while Stray was named the Best PlayStation Game. Meanwhile, Cult of the Lamb won Best Indie Game. The best PlayStation game being Stray really surprises me. Cult of the Lamb, though, very happy for those guys winning Best Indie Game. It's wonderful. Also, upcoming first-person sci-fi shooter Atomic Heart released 8 minutes of new gameplay footage this week if you're interested, and it continued to look very good. Although I remain somewhat skeptical because we've heard some news about troubled development, things like that, so I'm going to probably wait and see how it gets reviewed. Also, Animal Shelter Simulator is coming to PS4 and PS5 in the first quarter of next year. 25% of God of War Ragnarok players have beaten the game to this point, which is a pretty big number. Very big number, actually. So that's pretty impressive. A Dead Island 2 gameplay showcase was announced for December the 6th. The game was just recently delayed to April 28th. Hopefully it looks good. Computer RPG Dark Envoy was announced to be coming to consoles sometime in 2023. Spaceship shooter Everspace 2 has been confirmed for an early 2023 release on PS4 and PS5. Martial arts brawler Sifu is getting another free update in December, which will add a replay editor that will allow you to create your own martial arts highlight reels. That is the fall update for that game. There's also a winter update coming before March 20th. It's supposed to add a new game mode called Arenas. Next nugget. Website PlayStation Lifestyle reported that Assassin's Creed Valhalla will be leaving PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium on December the 20th, and it likely won't be the only game leaving in December. They just don't get announced. As a part of all the Activision drama we discussed earlier, Microsoft stated in documents to the British CMA that they believe Grand Theft Auto 6 will release sometime in 2024. I'm not sure about that. It might be announced for 2024, but I think it gets delayed to 2025 in the end. Also, Marvel's Avengers has a grim future, according to prominent leaker Miller, who is apparently an insider on that game only. He claimed that he has had discussions over the last few weeks that indicate that the She-Hulk DLC, has been delayed over budget issues, which is certainly not a good sign. Website PlayStation Universe reported that the following games received update patches this week: No Man's Sky, Gran Turismo 7, God of War Ragnarok, Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2.0, The Callisto Protocol got its Day 1 patch, Multiversus, Battlefield 2042, Evil West, Dead by Daylight, Rust, Fall Guys, Ark Survival Evolved, Sonic Frontiers, and Guilty Gear Strive. So if you've been waiting for some new content or some fixes, you might want to check those games out. Also, the Dead Space remake has rebuilt the USG Ishimura, the ship it takes place on, from scratch, and has updated the zero-G mechanics they revealed this week. Prototype footage of the long-rumored Crash Bandicoot Wumpa League remaster leaked online this week from YouTuber Liam Robertson, if you are interested. Rainbow Six Siege will finally get cross-play and cross-progression support on consoles on December 6th in a new update. Life is Strange True Colors developer Deck 9 is hiring for a new unannounced AAA single-player adventure game. Splinter Cell is getting a BBC Radio 4 adaptation starting on December the 2nd, whatever the hell that means, as they continue to not make a new game. Though, I mean, they're remastering the one, so I guess that's something, but they'll just do anything with this IP other than make games. PlayStation Productions executive Carter Swan revealed new details on the upcoming Twisted Metal television series this week, saying that the Zombieland films are a quote-unquote good barometer, and that the show's creator, Rhett Reese, is a huge fan of the classic PlayStation franchise. I'm very curious about this game, like morbidly curious show, I should say, about just how good this could possibly be. I don't think we'll have to wait too much longer. I think it's coming in the spring after The Last of Us, obviously. I think we're looking at a spring release for this show. And perhaps also for the free-to-play game that is rumored to be in development as well. Next nugget, website Gaming Nexus. We know all about those guys, of course. They reported that the Battle of Caporetto is coming to World War I multiplayer first-person shooter Isonzo on December the 5th as part of a free expansion. Roguelike cardboard cutout thriller Paper Cut Mansion is coming to PS4 and PS5 on December the 5th as well. Sandbox MMORPG sequel Arcade 2 was announced to be coming to consoles sometime in 2024. Actually, I may have read that on last week's show. I'm not sure. Oh well, you get a double dose if so. Website Gematsu reported that real-time strategy RPG... Oh. I did not include the name there. That's pretty typical. I don't know what game. There's some type of strategy game coming out on PS4 on December the 9th, and there's a demo available now. Sorry about that. Forced perspective puzzle game Superliminal is now available natively on PS5 and is a free upgrade for PS4 owners of the game. Guilty Gear Strive announced a new DLC character named Sin Kisuke, and he is now available in the game. Third-person multiplayer platform fighter Divine Knockout launches December 6th for PS4 and PS5. It is a spin-off of the Smite game. It's interesting. Multiplayer extraction heist shooter Hawked, H-A-W-K-E-D, Hawked, was announced for PS4 and PS5, and a release date was given. It looks interesting, but the trailer there was no gameplay. It was just a pre-rendered trailer, so who knows. Paper RPG The Outbound Ghost will launch on PS4 and PS5 on November the 30th. And finally, Gamatsu reported that horse racing simulation game Winning Post 10 was announced for PS4 and PS5 by Koei Tecmo. It is currently only planned for a Japanese release on March 30th as the series celebrates its 30th anniversary. It first released way back in January of 1993. Wow, 30 years of horse racing simulations. Crazy. All right, that's all of the news this week, and breezed right through that without Travis here to help me get through that. So sad times. I'll now do Travis's job and go over the new game releases with you this week. Pretty decent week of releases, especially before the Thanksgiving holiday. On November the 22nd, we got Evil West on PS5 and PS4, which is getting kind of average reviews, but people say it's a fun basic shooter. So there's that. There's also Gungrave Gore on the 22nd for PS5 and PS4. Just Dance 2023 edition on PS5. Saint Kotar on PS5. Ship of Fools on PS5 and PS4. November 23rd, we got Dead Station on PS4. Finding the Soul Orb on PS5. Trifox on both PS5 and PS4. On Thanksgiving Day, we got Cleopatra Fortune as Tribute on PS4. Marsupilami Hoob Adventure on PS5. New Joe and Mac Caveman Ninja on PS5 and PS4. And then on November the 20th, Black Friday here in the States, we got Bleak Dystopia on PS4. Do Not Open on PS5. Furry Tangram Light on PS5 and PS4. Horse Club Adventures 2 Hazelwood Stories on PS4. How to Fool a Liar King Remastered on PS5 and PS4. Snake vs. Snake on PS4. Super Panda PS4. Unicorn Fun on PS5 and PS4 is the last game of the week. So like I said, the first part of the week was pretty good. Evil West is a big one from Flying Wild Hog. Gungrave Gore seems to be getting decent reviews. Well, actually, I think it's kind of mediocre now that I think about it. But it's kind of like an action RPG. Not really an RPG. Kind of like a Devil May Cry-ish sort of game with guns. Devil May Cry has guns. You know what I'm trying to say. Let's see. Just Dance has gone next gen now officially. Saint Kotar, I think, is some type of like survival horror, like psychological horror game. Ship of Fools is a co-op game about fighting off pirates and creatures and stuff with a friend on a ship, kind of like Overwatch, or not Overwatch. Goodness, Overcooked in a way. And I don't really know much about anything else last week. The rest of it kind of sounds like junk. So that's all for the new game releases this week, and we'll start to. Or not will. Gosh, see, this is just throwing me off not having Travis here. I hate it. So I'll start to wrap the show up now, like we always do, by discussing what I have been playing and what I'm looking forward to in the week ahead. So I've been playing Modern Warfare 2. Played last weekend with Travis, and I'm still really enjoying that quite a bit. It's a great game. I don't really have much else to say about it. I haven't got to play any more of the DMZ or even tried Warzone yet, but I would like to. So I'm hoping to do that soon. To see how Warzone is itself, but people seem pretty high on DMZ overall, and I have to admit it is fun. It's like a baby step into Warzone, which is perfectly fine with me. I also played God of War Ragnarok, still working on it. I'm like 14 hours into it. I think I'm like 30% through the story, which is nuts. I really enjoy the game. I think it's of the highest quality. Graphically, combat, sound. I think the story is really good so far. My problem is going to be, I think that it's going to overstay its welcome. I don't know that we needed a game this long because, I mean, I saw on Twitter today, somebody finished the game at 62 hours. And of course, I'm sure they were doing some side quests and stuff like that, which I'm doing that as well. I'm not doing everything, but I'm doing some side quests that interest me along the way, but I just don't. I've said it on the show before. Like, I think 15 to 20 hours for like a linear single player story based game is really the max. Like, that should be the standard in my opinion. So I don't know. It's Death Stranding kind of did this to me too. Like, Death Stranding is a game that I really enjoyed, but it took me 50 something hours to beat it. And by the time I beat it, I was like, okay, this is an 8. You know, like games can easily overstay their welcome, and that's my fear for God of War right now. Definitely my fear. So we'll see. Maybe I'll feel differently about it at the end. By all accounts, the story is quite compelling. It's excellent. So far that is the case. So we'll see how I feel. See how I feel when I'm done with it. But it's going to take me a while because I just don't. I'm lucky to get a couple hours a day to play games, and that's not every day. So it's probably going to take me a few more weeks to beat it. My goal is to have it done by The Witcher 3 next gen update on December the 14th because I want to dive into that. But I know in the meantime, I'm going to be reviewing some titles as well for Gaming Nexus. So that'll disrupt me along the way some. So there's that. But anyway, the last thing I've been playing is Battlefield 2042, the new update, Season 3, dropped this week. And I got to say, it's fun. It's pretty good. The new map is pretty awesome. It's probably the best looking map that we have so far. And I really like the layout of it and just the locale. It's really cool. I have not unlocked like the railgun tank and stuff like that yet. I just this morning unlocked the railgun rifle, but I haven't got to use it yet. I had to get off. But yeah, I mean, you guys have listened to me on the show say almost week in and week out that Battlefield 2042 is a really good game now. And it's just another one of those games in the long line of games that come out in a not so great shape and redeem themselves. So for better or worse, that seems kind of like the norm nowadays. And I would definitely recommend it if you're wanting, an FPS that's not Call of Duty or something like that. And every time I play the game, although Modern Warfare 2, for instance, is a much better game than Battlefield on the whole, Battlefield still has that certain je ne sais quoi that has that feel in those moments, the quote unquote Battlefield moments that you're just not going to get ever in a Call of Duty game. You're not going to get it in Warzone, nothing like that. And when I play Battlefield, I'm like, wow, that's something that doesn't happen in other FPSs. So they have definitely nailed that continually over the years, regardless of how the game is received. So kudos to them. But yeah, it's a great game. So things I'm looking forward to. Of course, we've got Need for Speed Unbound coming up at the end of next week. I'm looking forward to checking that out. That looks pretty good. People seem to be kind of excited about it that have seen the gameplay and stuff. So we'll see how it reviews and kind of go from there. But yeah, that's it. So that's it for me. It's it for the show. Sorry that we couldn't have Travis join us this week. I know he brings his own touch to the show, and I don't like not having him. So it's just one of those things, though. It didn't work out. He's been busy with work and stuff like that. So his time has been pretty crunched lately. But anyway, I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. Hope you got to eat a lot of food and enjoy some time with friends and family and loved ones. And thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe so that you get a new episode delivered every Monday on your podcast service or YouTube. Also, if you can leave us a thumbs up, a like, a comment, rating on your podcast service, whether that's stars or hearts, whatever the case is, that'd be much appreciated. We would also appreciate comments and written reviews if you so please. And of course, one of the biggest things is word of mouth spreading us by sharing us with a friend or loved one who you think may enjoy the show. We very much appreciate that as well. And don't forget to find us on social media, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, at the DualSense Pod or at the DualSense Podcast, either one. We would love to hear from you and chat some PlayStation. We also have the blog, of course, the DualSensePodcast.wordpress.com. And yeah, we'll get out of here. Take care. Have a great week. And we'll talk at you next time. Bye-bye.